Hello Wargamers, it's me Callum from Tabletop Banter, and in today's video we are going to take a look at the state of the Horus Heresy as of September 2018 and why it's not all doom and gloom. Before I get into that topic, I just want to say massive thank yous for all those who donated and such in the live stream. That was an amazing day for Harry and I. It was very tiring, but it was very rewarding in the end, and it was nice to have something to show for it at the end. Today's video, like I said, is going to be about the state of the Horus Heresy. A few things have come to light recently that have caused a bit of a stir in what I will say is the community. It's a very broad term, I don't really like using it very often because it doesn't really capture the community. Well, I'll say the online presence. I think that's probably a better way to put it. And what I wanted to do is take you through the Horus Heresy this year. It's been a roller coaster in terms of the game state, if you like, but at the same time it's been, I think, the best year for the Horus Heresy that I know of, and I'd like to tell you why. So firstly, we've had the new Horus Heresy rulebook. Now I can't quite remember if that was the end of last year or the beginning of this year. It's been quite a long year for me personally, but having held, being one of the first people to touch the new rulebook when there was the misprint, I can categorically say that was a big step forward for the Horus Heresy. To have its own rulebook, it's a stunning book, by the way. Classic Forge World literature sort of style thing where it's got the gilded edges and it's really nicely comprised. I actually have a slight print error with mine, with the lamination, the reason they sent it back. But do you know what? It's tiny, you can barely see it. It means I know which one's mine. And honestly, it was such a big step for the Horus Heresy. It became its own game at that point, rather than a 7th edition supplement, if you like. And having it isolate itself as its own game was obviously a really big step forward for those who play the Horus Heresy. And this year, we've seen a lot of events run. I think you can go to a Horus Heresy event every fortnight, and during the summer, pretty much every weekend. So that's huge. And that's just in the UK alone, obviously. If you'll get the people who do go to a lot of them in the UK. There's this core group that seems to go everywhere. Well, not all of them necessarily, but you know, some of the bigger ones. And if you really wanted, you could go every fortnight, which is just amazing. Like I say, a huge step forward for the Horus Heresy. And I have no doubt that the Horus Heresy rulebook was a big part of that. Making it a separate game meant that you were either invested in the Horus Heresy as a whole, or you were playing 40k. Now obviously 8th edition's come out since just over a year now, and that has separated the games even further, but that's a good thing in my opinion anyway, because it's different strokes for different folks. What we've also seen, certainly towards the middle and the latter part of the year, are new releases, new character models and such. So we've had Scoria and Kroll recently. There's been a bunch of Custodes releases since the beginning of the year. In line with Book 7, obviously, Inferno, there's been Thousand Sun stuff being released, a little bit of, there's been all the Space Wolf stuff, and yes, there was a bit of controversy. I say controversy, there were mixed feelings about how the Space Wolf sculpt was done, but again, I mean, they released something. It wasn't great in my opinion, but they released something, and they were pushing forwards with what came from Book 7 into a now more a tangible form with the Grey Slayer upgrade packs and so forth, and all the Custode releases. Recently, like I say, there's been Scoria and Kroll, along with some sculpts of Legion-specific Praetors and Consuls and all that stuff, and the console models that they showed at the Horus Heresy Weekender in Germany, I think it was Germany, were absolutely stunning. Well, the pictures came along on the Warhammer community page, and honestly that gets me quite excited for sort of console conversions, and having more models to base your conversions off of is always good, obviously, and it's a pretty exciting time in terms of new scheduled releases. Obviously with those releases has come some slight turbulence along the way. So we've had the last chance to buy era, which is something that has definitely caused a lot of conversation within the online presence of the Horus Heresy. Most of it negative, to be honest with you. It saw the discontinuation at the moment of Mark IIs and I think some Mark 5 stuff, I can't quite recall, but certainly all the Mark 2s, which, as you know, is going to affect my Ashen Circle project if you've seen any of my stuff on Instagram, but that's fine. There are alternatives. So the Mark 2s are gone, the over-the-shoulder heavy weapons are gone. There have been loads of changes to the Renegade and Militia stuff. That's all pretty much gone now. But it's not just the Horus Heresy, it's Forge World in general. The Elysian Drop Troops, the Warhammer 40k Forge World Imperial Guard Regiment, they've gone. And we've seen it, like I say, in that sort of respect. It is by and large been in the Heresy side of things, but Forge World is by and large a Heresy company, if that makes sense. Most of their products they produce are Horus Heresy related, or certainly that's how it seems off the face of it anyway. Now, these last chance to buys were poorly communicated to begin with, and I will not back the way that Forge World went about it originally. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say today comes down to the fact that they are a company. So they, as a private institution, can do whatever the hell they want, and it's not like, yes, you can scrutinize it, and that's fine, but they're welcome to do what they want. If they want to stop selling all Forge World products, they can. If they want to just stop being a company and sell all their assets and quit and call it a day, they're welcome to. They're a company. And a lot of what I'm going to say today boils down to the fact that they are making business decisions because they are a business. Now, last chance to buy, the speculation is that there was not enough storage space, which I agree with. Rumour has it they've recently bought a new storage warehouse at Lenton, or near where they have their original place anyway. So hopefully we won't see that happening again anytime soon. Not to say that the last chance to buys are finished entirely, I don't know. Now, they dropped a lot of the upgrade packs and things that have alternatives. Now, obviously, you could say Mark II and Mark IV Tactical Marines aren't an alternative. They perform the same game function, though they provide a significantly different aesthetic function. Now, I much prefer Mark II, and I have been planning in the past to do an all Mark II Dark Angels army based around all Power Sword Weapon Master vets and stuff like that. And now I can't do that, which was really rubbish. I thought it was a bit crap, but at the end of the day, if that business decision keeps Forge World producing new stuff and keeps them investing in the Heresy, then it's a short-term loss for a long-term gain. And I can part with that because I'm not hanging around in the Heresy for a jolly 5 minutes. You know, I'm investing money, investing time in creating an army, multiple legions, in fact, because this is the game I like playing, and this is the narrative in which I've invested. So, like I say, last chance to buy, tumultuous period. We had a lot of negativity online, but I think a lot of that was more on the communication side of things, which I think was the one thing that Forge World let themselves down with. Now, that being said, there was a live stream with Tony Cottrell, the head of Forge World, where he basically said anything that is currently in production that does not have an alternative, we are not to worry. Which means perhaps that they will be bringing things back in the future. They may do limited print runs in the future. For example, one of the ideas that has been formulated is that in February, when the next Black Book comes out, supposedly, which I'll talk about a bit later on, when that book comes out, they'll do a reprint of Mark II limited run, because then they won't have to hold on to everything as long. They know it's a limited run. Now, that's just obviously tinfoil hats on for this sort of stuff, but it's worth thinking about. You know, just because they're not producing it anymore doesn't mean they don't have the files, doesn't mean they can't update the files to make a new lot anyway. Stuff that has been cut has been on things that weren't selling as well. Now, when Calth and Prospero came out, another topic of conversation in a bit, the demand for Forge World resin Tactical Marines dropped, as you'd expect, because it became significantly cheaper to buy the plastic ones. In some ways, plastic is easier to work with for beginners as well anyway. So, you know, there are loads of reasons why people took Calth over the stuff on the Forge World website. So that's another thing to bear in mind. It is a business decision. They possibly cut maybe the bottom 5–10% of sales, because the over the shoulder heavy support marines required the heavy support marine torsos and legs, whereas The underslung heavy weapons that they sell, and they still sell, they can be bolted onto a Calth Marine. So, you know, it's just, I think it's just one of those things really, where they took what wasn't selling away. And like I say, it doesn't mean it's gone forever. In the words of Tony Cottrell, like literally taking what he said from the live stream. Now, obviously, they could say whatever they like and not follow through, but you'd hope that they would. And if they don't, they don't. You know, it's not going to stop me playing the game. Next on the list of things that have excited me for the Heresy is Book 8. Now, Book 8 has been confirmed as Malevolence, and from memory, it will contain Blood Angels, White Scars, and Demons, and that's all I can remember. I've not really read into it too much. It's more of an interest because it means that they are producing a new Heresy book. Well, I say that, the cover's been released, and it looks amazing. I don't own any of the black books, the campaign books. I would love to, but they are slightly out of my price range as a student. That's kind of money I'd rather be spending on the hobby in terms of the models and the paints and so forth at the moment. Doesn't mean I won't get them in the future, but right now, with my limited hobby budget, I want to be spending it on the things that I can actively use rather than just read. Now, with Book 8, we see more future releases. So for those people who think that Heresy is dead, I know it's become somewhat of a meme online now, but realistically, they're still producing models, they're still producing the game, they're now releasing another book. The rumours have it that there'll be more red books on the way. Book 9, I believe, will include Dark Angels and Dark Mechanicum, from memory. Someone mentioned possibly some Night Lord stuff in there as well, but I don't know. Like I say, don't hold me to this, but this is what I've been reading in various forums and stuff, and on Facebook pages from a while back. Because obviously Dark Angels and Blood Angels were meant to be in Book 8, which was Angelus, but they then said, actually, we're having a reshuffle, which is fine. I'm really happy with that, because Book 8's going to be good. I have a good feeling about it. Don't get me wrong, like Blood Angels are pretty strong already and they don't need the help, but I'm sure whatever they get will just work in the narrative sense. Like I say, it just shows that Forge World are still pushing the Heresy forwards, which is obviously great. Now on to the things that caught my attention recently that made me, I won't say lose faith in the community, because the community is insanely good in the Heresy. It's not the community that I have an issue with, it's the online presence that I have an issue with. Now, recently there have been a couple of things from Forge World that have caused this online presence to throw a hissy fit, I think is the best way to put it. I'm going to start with the price hikes. So, Forge World, congratulations on actually doing the right thing in communicating what was happening. Unlike the last chance to buy, Forge World were very open about what was happening. Now, those of you who are familiar with Games Workshop will know that for years, they have had internal exchange rates of sorts. So they set prices in different locations. They had, 5 Space Marines costs, let's say, £10, but on the Games Workshop website, if you look at it from the US, it costs, say, $15, or €15, or 25 Australian dollars. They have set prices in foreign currencies, depending on where you're buying it from. This usually, in fact almost always, means there is an inflated price elsewhere. We've seen this in Australia where things like, I think it was Smog or Smaug, I didn't actually watch The Hobbit, I didn't want to ruin the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, but that fuck off massive dragon is something like 2.5 times the price in Australia than it is over here in the UK. Now, while I would be miffed if I was Australian, or American, or European, well, you know, if I lived in mainland Europe, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Or buy less. This is the thing that really gets to me, because having studied economics, only for a few years obviously, so I'm not saying I'm a master by any means, but we all have the option to make consumption decisions, you know, for ourselves. This item that we are buying is a luxury good. Okay, Forge World is not the same as bread and milk. There are alternatives if you don't like what is being sold. It's not a commodity. It's not something we need to live off of. It's not a roof over our heads. This is what you buy when you've paid your bills, you've fed your family, and you have got yourself to work. So the fact that there are changes in prices, it sucks for the consumer, sure. But if you don't like it, don't buy it. I have seen so many people approach this with the entitled nature of, yesterday I could buy 10 Terminators, today I can only buy 5. Forge World owe me 5 Terminators. You can approach this in a much more sensible way, and you can approach this, you know, and say, look, Forge World are doing this, I'm not interested in this anymore, so I will stop talking about it. Instead, rather than kicking up a massive fuss and throwing my toys out the pram, I would just get into X-Wing or Song of Ice and Fire or something. The new what's the name of the series? The new Game of Thrones game, which looks absolutely stunning, by the way. Or I could play with what I've got already. If I really like the story and I really like the lore, am I really that fussed? Can I not just be self-contained? Or do I find something else that draws my interest? Like, there are alternatives to this. This is not something you need to survive. So think about it like that. They are a company. They are making business decisions. They may or may not work. They will have thought about this for a long time. Firstly, there are 2 or 3 reasons why I think they are doing this. One, it brings Forge World in line with Games Workshop pricing mechanisms. It is now the same as Games Workshop, which is important. If you have a company and a sister company, you want them singing from their same hymn sheet. So it really draws the two into that one place. Much easier to manage from a business perspective. Number 2, there's a lot of uncertainty. Economic uncertainty, that is, particularly when it comes to the UK's links with other countries. Now, hate it or love it, Brexit's happening, and it's important to recognise that that will affect the confidence of consumers and of producers. It might end up being a positive or negative effect, we don't know. But at the moment, Forge World are likely doing this to make sure that should things not work out in a way that suits them best, they have themselves covered. Now, that's my personal opinion. Looking at it from an economic standpoint, a business standpoint, I can understand why they are taking precautions because, like I say, it's a period of uncertainty, and in uncertainty, people need to make sure that things are ticking over. People need assurances, and that is what Forge World are doing for themselves now. And that brings me to the last point, and very much in line with these price hikes and the changes in how they run their company. We have seen confirmation that Prospero and Kauth are finished, and people are again throwing toys out the pram. Now, I've heard that Prospero and Kauth were always only one print, and they just haven't sold out until now. Now, this might be part of the reason why there were so few Grandmaster editions printed originally, because they saw what happened with Kauth and Prospero when they printed as many as they did, and when they didn't sell, they were sat on stock. Now, the intention was always for them to be a one-print game. Doesn't mean they'll never get printed again. They've got information, they've got the files if they need it. They may do a special release, like I say, when a black book comes out, or when the red book gets updated, etc, etc. We might even see a whole new box game. We don't know. But the decisions this company makes will be in the best interest for the company. And if Games Workshop and Forge World are thriving, so are the games they are producing. Which means consumers are benefiting in the long run. I know in the short run it seems like a bit of a bummer. I'm annoyed, sure. I don't love the fact that they've cancelled Kauth. It doesn't fill me with joy that they've taken Prospero off the shelves. But at the same time, I recognise that what they are doing for the company, and if the company is prospering, so are the people buying its goods. But that's it, really. So thanks ever so much for watching. I know it's been a while since I've done a video. I'm trying to make them slightly more structured, just a little bit, and regular again would be really nice too. As you can see, I'm in a new accommodation. I've moved to Worcester. I'm living near Worcester anyway, and I'll be doing my PGC, which is super exciting. So hopefully you'll see some whiteboards and some interactive, some stuff like that, and I'll get my little pens out, and we'll see what happens. Until then, thank you ever so much for watching. It's been me, Callum from Tabletop Banter. See you in the next one. Bye for now.